Yebehwe senior nkrofo hard-earned money came during the banking cleanup exercise under the new patriotic party leadership as a government. Abrana MPP amanyukuno etia baimuno. Eye nyina huni omo yeye omba begugu banks bebre wo Ghana ha na omo reason ni se banks ni bi perform well any ade. So they collapsed it. Now, you see, banks nebi no more deserve say you collapse. Banks nebi so no ma. Na aban ne betima ye hu bibi. Because o share sikana aban no edi close some of banks no not yet me disas can banks ne ye. But omo share that collapse banks no. Sikan ko metimi dia sustain some of the banks na ye collapse ye no sa sika no ye de collapse ye dia akwa ye say deliberate na ade na affect bank owners nko a affect the customers wo mo ano musika wo mu no wo mu na affect wo mo kese na abrantie we ne dindi nana ya obim prekon. In fact, this is how or yawno or firmu. This is what happened to him. Abraham Sikako Kelmu ewo GN Bank under the cleanup exercise of the MPP government. See, let us follow his write-up. Na tie asema woka or yawa nkrofo we di Ghanaians binum firmu. Shadie. My personal experience with the Ghana banking cleanup. My personal experience with the Ghana banking cleanup. A village boy's story and national reflection. I grew up as a village boy full of dreams, hope, and determination. Life wasn't easy, but I believed that hard work and saving even the smallest amount could secure a better future. After traveling to Kumasi to work, I decided to open a bank account at GN Bank, a bank I trusted. I deposited small amounts whenever I could. Every CD mattered. These savings were more than money. They were my lifeline, my hope for a better tomorrow, a safety net for emergencies, education, family needs, and health. At first, banking felt safe. I will walk into the branch greeted by familiar faces, smiling tellers who knew me by name. I will check my balance, deposit or withdraw and leave feeling a little lighter, knowing my money was secure. The Abrantia way kind of story. Or say when you as Sebiu village boy, Anna and the so edan and so opeso bobra. Na otu kwan ba Kumasi. Edo decide say obeya juma. Na oya juma ni nyina no okoko be a bank account. Bank ana ojinidi eye GN Bank. Nti kwan kakra obenya no dia tum, sika kakra obenya no dia tum, ade kakra obenya no dia tum, kakra na sa sika na o save no na chese o enye savings keka na se na enye sika keka o na ene lifeline. Sende BBC cream emergency ya sa sika na education mu a sa sika no se ne busu ya ni hia bibi serious a sa sika no eye na pomodi hu nsem so esa aska ntina sa savings ne ya ade bia eye no kwa nti wo say that moment mu na banking eye safe obetima wura bank mu chese ebedru na adwumayefo na sirisiri kire na obedru na obe withdraw na wa withdraw be deposit na wa deposit na wa kone be because no wo gidie say ne sika ya den eye secure and then well protected until MPP came to power. But one day, everything changed. I went to withdraw some of my savings and the teller told me the network was down. At first, I thought it was a minor technical issue, but the issue went on and each visit brought more uncertainty and fear. I say, one day, he went to the bank. Na okokodru bank honom no. Afedie obe withdraw sika bibia sesa. Tell no jina hono ka chere is a network no enye papa network ninye nti oka se na a problem na a normal problem and also okay technical issue there etimi to time bia and ofri ho ekoye afede as time goes on obekọ bia na same problem tedro no chale be bia niam ko e hu aba memu. Staff became hesitant, anxious, and I could see worry etched on their faces. Some of them quietly tried to comfort me, sensing my growing despair. They could read my pain. The anxiety of someone whose small savings were all he had. And just say, "Ebedru baby, onwanga to me say no. Staff ne bi no worries about money so. Just no one who near el coso. Ha no man who or how no. Ha no money near see." But instead of them to tell him, say no, GM Bank is collapsing, no, that be omuntimi can sleep. There be another stories, no more Shannon crying, blah blah blah, no money near call. And then the truth hit me. The bank was collapsing. The money I had worked so hard to save was trapped, unreachable, and for a moment it felt as if my dreams were slipping away. My heart sank. I wasn't just thinking about myself. I thought about the countless others like me. The hustlers working tirelessly day and night, depositing money in the bank for their children's education. Families saving cedis to pay for medical treatment, groceries, and rent. Small business owners relying on deposits to keep their shops running. Relying on deposits to keep their shops running. And to say, Edru baby, Obabe no credits no GM Bank egu. Sika waya juma ayire no hu aya juma a save no na afede ohia sika na onya afede o nze no na nida so nyina ya den asa na kuma bu na at that moment kura na enyo no nkwa kura no odwi no hu na odwi about other people o munso a save sika de so no ebinum de ye abusuafo medical treatment for rent any small business anomuye but ono at that moment no na ne hope nyina sa sika na akam no ni ane da so bia. Imagine their pain. Imagine waking up every day hoping your hard-earned money is safe, only to discover that it isn't. The banking cleanup, while necessary in theory, brought deep emotional and financial pain to ordinary Ghanaians. I remember leaving the bank that day, shoulders heavy, heart heavier, asking myself, was this intended to punish the owners of the bank? Was it meant to show the power of regulators and government? Or could there have been another way, a way to save the bank and protect people like me? The Bank of Ghana and government said it was necessary to protect the financial system, ensure solvency, and safeguard depositors in the long run. But from where I stood and for many others, the short-term pain was crushing. Some of us had nothing else to fall back on. Some of us lost hope. Now that's one at that moment, and that's what Asa. Could the government have saved the bank instead of letting it collapse? Possibly. Could recapitalization, early intervention, structured rescue plans, or measures have been explored more thoroughly? Yes, but the reality is that the collapse was swift, leaving ordinary Ghanaians like me to suffer. And this place, this guy is saying, Anka, I buy no crabet my baby. To what? To what? To save the banks by what? By recapitalization instead of collapsing it. I will explain that place for you. But every time I think about it, I remember the faces of the bank workers, their quiet sympathy, and the lines of worried depositors outside the branches. Each person carried a story, a hope, a dream, a small plan to build a life. And in a moment, those plans were shattered, leaving a trail of sadness, uncertainty, and lessons for the future. There were alternative options that governments and regulators could have considered or strengthened to try to save some of the banks rather than letting them collapse. To say, now there were other options. Na alternative wɔ ha anka aban no betuma yɛ to what? To save the banks or protect the banks from collapsing. But ɔmo anyɛ saa. But each option has trade-offs and depends heavily on how deep the problems were. Insolvency, fraud, poor governance, etc. Here is an evidence-based overview of what could have been done in the Ghana banking crisis 2017 to 2019 and why some options might or might not have worked. Now, take a look at this. You can't tell me say, nkrofo we share that egu banks na montiasie. Share number 1 we recapitalization and government support bailout. Rather than revoking licenses and collapsing banks, the government could have injected capital directly into struggling banks to restore solvency. Inti say no or say instead of say the government never far to omo say omo be collapse banks and omo revoke omo licenses are collapse no anka say no be no ka ban ne betimi aboa struggling banks by giving them some money capital to continue operating. You understand? Ka aban ne betimi ayesa. How it could work. Government or state-backed vehicle buys equity in weak banks. Capital injunctions shore up balance sheets. Preserve jobs and branch networks can be combined with stronger regulation governance reforms. Examples. Ghana context. Ghana did not create the Ghana Amalgamated Trust to raise equity and recapitalize some banks through pension funds and investors rather than shutting them down. Cambridge University Press an assessment, however, this scheme had mixed results. Many banks still ended up collapsing or placing funds into government security, which later lost value during the debt crisis, weakening rather than helping them. The Ghana report preserves jobs and business continuity, boosts deposits confidence, reduce system shock, cons risks of using taxpayer funds inefficiently may prop up poorly run banks without governance reform. That is for the number 1. Number 2 no. This is what these people could have done to save some of the banks rather than collapsing them. But say, Obron some year na been so obedi boni no. Regulatory forbearance with structured recovery plans. Instead of immediately revoking licenses, regulators could have used supervised recovery approach, allow banks time to fix capital and asset quality shortfalls, restructure debts and impose strict performance targets. In the number 2, no one say, Anka, a friend is saying, Anka, they shouldn't have what? They shouldn't have collapsed. Friends saying, they shouldn't have collapsed the banks, but say Anka, as I say, this is the number 2. Anka, omubema approach be. And as omubema some time to fix their problem under strict supervision. What do I say? It say, Yamfan say, why Juma ya and Swenny, no boss, no. Episode ya why Juma ye. No, I catch you so. Mamma this time, but more than improve you. Se sad we do not want to improve you. Mess you up any buffer beshawa naimo. At least no, Anka they could have done something to make sure that Omaya day one strict supervision and then give them some time to what? To change things. 3. Stronger governance and early supervision. A major factor in the crisis was poor governance, inside loans and weak risk management, not just lack of capital. Bank of Ghana, alternatives threaten supervision before banks hit crisis levels. This is number 3. Number 3 no so say Anka banks must have strong leadership, clear rules, and honest management. In simple terms, no, anka government no should have focused in what? More on helping and fixing some of the banks instead of what? Mainly saying that they are closing them. The government should have sit down and then strategize, say, oh, how can we what? How can we help these people? Or what can we do to make sure that we solve this problem instead of collapsing them? Now, do you think say that time anka different government being a war power anka sa banks where you go no? Deposit insurance and partial guarantees instead of shutting banks. The state could offer insurance protection, guarantee deposits up to a certain amount. Provide contingent liquidity facilities to keep banks operating while restructuring occurs. Ghana has a deposit protection scheme, but the scale of the crisis meant that guarantees alone wouldn't have resolved deep solvency issues. Mergers and strategic acquisitions instead of outright closure. Weak banks could have been merged with stronger partners under supervision. Some steps were taken. Mergers were approved for few banks pre-crisis. Omni Bank with Sahara Bank, Oxford Business Group, larger banks like GCB later absorbed failing banks' assets and deposits. So here, no, he is trying to tell us, say, anka at least no, anka government in number 4 na make no, you will be a friend no. Deposit insurance. Let me show you something. Number 4 no, I'm coming. Number 4 no, your friend will be deposit insurance. A system I design to protect a customers sika. It's a bank failure. It is a bank no gukura collapse here. A bank should be able to refund some of the monies amount to be to some of the customers. But maybe some koso. None that's what you go. Number 5, Mrs. was saying banks need be crumple instead of collapsing them. A bit merge some of the stronger banks with what? With the weaker ones. Na bibiatima konkai. Most analysts agree that the banking system needed a combination of stronger regulation, capital support, and transparent restructuring, and that simply closing banks was not the only path, even if it was the most straightforward under the legal framework at the time. So, who summarizes it? This guy is trying to say, closing the banks at that moment, brought pain to the ordinary Ghanaians and almost save you, or even it brought pain into their heart, which was very bad. Even employ jobless. They not come in people position, no, because nipa na why the jobless, no, be so or no benefit from that person. So such person, no, all country that Muslims got 20 hours, they vote against you.